Incredible transformation. Black Maid's dream wedding shocks guests as Groom reveals hidden truth. Maya stood before the mirror, her gown cascading around her like a cloud of ivory silk. She saw a bride, vibrant and full of hope, yet beneath that exterior lay a whirlwind of uncertainty. 10 years of serving the Whitaker family had hardened some layers of her soul, and even today, as the weight of her gown pressed against her, she felt the familiar tug of doubt. They had watched her in their home, making her occasional art pieces a mere curiosity, but she had never allowed herself to dream beyond scrubbing floors. What if the concerns of the world came crashing down on her fairy tale moment? Her heart raced as she tried to focus on the joy of marrying Ethan, a man who saw through societal barriers with eyes full of love. But Ethan had just discovered a secret she'd kept hidden, the artistry that fueled her dreams. This hidden expression, long buried beneath the daily grind, was as much a part of her identity as the crisp uniform she now shed. What would he think? Would the truth draw them closer or pull them apart? The giddiness of the wedding melted into unbearable pressure as she recalled their conversations. Hope entwined with clenched fists, the shared laughter that masked an ever-present worry about societal judgments. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As she descended the stairs, the whispers of guests and the flash of cameras intensified in her ears. Would they see her for who she was, a woman in love, or merely the maid in the beautiful dress? Her stomach tightened. Each step felt heavier, a reminder of the burdens she carried, the inequalities that suffocated her ambitions. Ethan, ever the support, smiled widely, yet dread loomed over him. The truth gnawed at the corners of his heart. As he reached for her, she sensed his tension, the unspoken words hanging in the air. Then came the moment. Standing at the altar, surrounding families shifted, their polite smiles fading into uncertainty. Would they accept Maya as more than a maid? She gripped Ethan's hand tighter, feeling the electric charge between them. Just as the officiant started the vows, Ethan's eyes flickered to hers, a silent plea, a decision weighing heavily upon him. The line between love and fear blurred in an instant as he took a deep breath. Maya's heart lurched, caught between the dream of a fulfilled life and the reality of skimming the surface of acceptance. Ethereal beauty hung around them, yet she felt on the precipice of something precarious. Would he speak of a past entwined with her art? Was he ready to unravel the complexities of their story in front of witnesses? But as she stared into his yearning eyes, she realized this moment was theirs. Could love anchor them through this revelation, or would it shatter the precious bond they cherished? The tension crackled, spaces between breaths growing wider, as Maya's future dangled in that fleeting heartbeat, an impending storm of emotional turmoil. The silence hung thick in the chapel, as all eyes focused on the couple standing just feet away from their future. Shadows danced beneath the ornate chandeliers, mirroring the unspoken tempest brewing within Maya's heart. She squeezed Ethan's hand tighter, desperate to connect, to pull him into her world where secrets and dreams collided. But the weight of the moment left her breathless. Would the truth she had hidden, buried under years of servitude, redefine them in the eyes of their guests? Ethan's gaze did not waver as he continued reciting his vows, but his voice faltered slightly. Each word felt imbued with the latent uncertainty of their circumstance. Maya sensed the tightrope they walked, a balance of love and the rawness of reality. Fear and affection wrestled within her, a dance as old as time. As Ethan's vows drew to a close, she felt an insistent urge to step forward, to reclaim her narrative before the tradition dictated the script. A flickering ember of determination ignited inside her. She would not go back to a life where her art remained hidden behind the facade of domestic service. The vision of herself, an artist, a creator, and a woman deserving of equal respect, became vivid in her mind's eye. "Ethan," she interrupted softly, her voice barely above a whisper, but carrying the full weight of her resolve. His eyes widened in surprise, but she didn't back down. "I can't stand here without saying who I truly am. I want our future to be built on trust and transparency." The murmur among the guests rippled like a shockwave through the room. She felt their eyes piercing into her, questioning her audacity. Yet, in that moment, she chose to confront the very fears that had hidden her potential for too long. The lines of her existence began to blur. Images of her art, colorful, bold, and unapologetic, flooding her mind. "I have dreams outside of this life," she continued, her pulse racing. "I dream of painting, of creating art that speaks and connects people. I've held back so many parts of myself. I want you to see all of me, Ethan, not just the role I've played for so long." Ethan's face reflected a mix of admiration and apprehension. The audience was frozen, gripped by her confession. Would her truth bind them together, or create rifts they could not mend? A moment stretched into eternity, and each heartbeat thrummed with urgency. Suddenly, the officiant cleared his throat, breaking the suspension like glass shattering on the floor. "Maya, perhaps it is not the right time." "No," she interjected with newfound strength. "It's exactly the right time. I want to be more than just a maid in a beautiful dress. I want to step into the light of who I am meant to be." Her voice quivered, but surged with momentum. Ethan's eyes widened further, and she could almost feel the shift in him, the crack forming in the layers surrounding his heart. As Maya grasped the enormity of her declaration, she prepared herself for the fallout. Within that tension, she could feel the ground beneath her shifting, and uncertainty hung like a sword above them. Then Ethan took a step closer, and his voice resonated with an unexpected strength. "Then let's build that future together, whatever it may hold." But just before he uttered the final vows, a voice interjected from the back of the chapel, chilling the room. "Is that what you truly want, Ethan? Or are you just caught up in a moment?" Maya's heart dropped. Who could it be? The stakes had just risen. Uncertainty clawed back at her, mingling with determination as she stared into the crowd, bracing for what would follow. The unexpected confrontation loomed like a storm cloud, ready to unleash. Would she weather it, or would fear once again keep her from stepping boldly into her truth? Ethan's expression shifted, confusion flaring in his eyes as he scanned the room, searching for the source of the interruption. Maya felt the world around her close in, the air thickening with tension. Voices, once mere whispers of disbelief, now surged into a cacophony of judgment and intrigue, trapping her in a cyclone of uncertainty. Who had dared question Ethan? It was a pivotal moment, and she could feel the eyes of family and friends burning with scrutiny. Was the person behind that voice seeking to wound or protect? She wanted to dissolve into the ground, yet something deeper roared within her, demanding she remain grounded. This wasn't just about the ceremony. This was about her very identity. "Don't listen to them," Maya urged, directing her plea toward Ethan, but keeping her voice steady. "This is our moment." The shaky resolve she felt was met with Ethan's hesitant compliance. He turned fully to her, his confusion peeling back, revealing uncertainty, perhaps even fear, about what lay ahead. She felt an urge to shield him from the turmoil rising around them, yet it was equally vital for him to see her as she truly was. "I need you to really think about what I am asking," she continued, her voice gaining steadiness. "Who are you without the world's expectations? Can you embrace all of me, the artist, the dreamer? Can we truly build a life together with all our truths laid bare?" Her words hung in the air, creating a suspended moment, thick with the question of what truths would unravel once the dust settled. Was she truly ready to confront whatever revelations lay ahead, regarding not only her own dreams, but the heart of the man she loved? Maya's heart thundered in her chest as she locked eyes with Angela, the weight of the moment amplifying the choices laid before her. Her breaths came sharp and quick, a conflict of excitement and fear swirling within her. The crowd around them buzzed in anxious anticipation, a living entity drawn in by the gravity of their confrontation. For the first time, she felt an unyielding clarity. This wasn't just about defending her choices, it was about taking ownership of her narrative. Her story deserved to be told, unfettered by the weight of expectations or dissenting opinions. She had spent too long dimming her own light under the weight of others' judgments. "Angela," Maya said, her voice steadier now, laced with authority. "Thank you for your concerns, but I stand here not to ask for permission, but to assert my right to choose my path. I will not be confined to someone else's idea of who I should be." The challenge in her tone reverberated in the air, and in that moment she felt her identity crystallize. Each word was a proclamation of independence, an excavation of buried dreams. She could see the shock on some faces, a mix of surprise and contemplation, as if they were re-evaluating the assumptions they had held. Ethan's brows furrowed in support, but she noticed a flicker of concern in his eyes. She needed to clarify her journey, not just for herself, but for him, for their future. "Ethan," she turned to him then, "look at me. This isn't just a whim. I want to create. I want to express everything I've held back. I need you to understand that it's not a betrayal of what we have, but rather an expansion of our potential." When she looked back at the audience, a shift was palpable. The judgment that filled the air earlier had transformed into curiosity. They were no longer mere spectators. They were witness to her awakening, her bold stand against the tide of conformity. Angela's expression softened. I just worry about how the world will view you. People can be cruel, Maya. Are you prepared for that?" The moment of vulnerability struck at her core. Did she truly understand what it meant to face the world head-on? Yet there was something authentically liberating about acknowledging that fear. If that's the cost of living fully as myself, then yes, I would rather be courageous in my truth than comfortable in someone else's shadows. The crowd's tension thawed further, and she could almost feel the room acknowledge her resolve. This was about more than just her wedding. It was the birthing of the artist within, a tapestry woven through her struggles and triumphs. "Let's redefine what this day means for us," she whispered to Ethan, her heart now wide open as she sought his support once more. "Let it symbolize our commitment to face life's chaos together as authentic selves, ready to embrace whatever comes next." He nodded slowly, the lines of his face softening, as if he was beginning to grasp the enormity of her declaration. Maya steadied her breath, ready now to make promises that didn't just commit her to a man, but to her own dreams as well. "What if we utilize this moment to inspire others?" she proposed. "Let's share our story, not as a traditional narrative, but as an evolution of both our identities, separate yet united. Would you stand with me in that?" Ethan's response hung delicately in the air, and as she waited, she felt a flicker of anticipation mixed with trepidation. Was he prepared for this journey alongside her? With a fierce determination igniting within her, Maya took a step back into herself, ready to conquer the uncertainty ahead. But as Angela stepped aside and the crowd shifted, a new unease crept in. Would her bold stand against tradition truly inspire or ignite further dissent? With all eyes trained on her again, Maya felt the pivotal moment teeter precariously on the brink of transformation. What revelations would emerge as they embraced their uncharted future together? And even more daunting, what truths about herself would she discover along the way? Maya stood in the tension-filled space, drawing strength from the palpable energy of the crowd that had shifted with her declaration. The air crackled, and beneath that electric excitement was an undercurrent of uncertainty.
She wondered if she had fully comprehended the magnitude of her stance. Could she sustain this momentum? Ethan took a moment longer than she expected to respond, his eyes searching hers for reassurance. "Maya, I admire your courage, and I want you to know that I'm with you. It's just—" He hesitated, his voice trailing off as if grappling with thoughts too weighty to articulate. "I want to ensure we're both ready for this." His concern stung, but Maya realized it stemmed from love, a mutual desire to protect what they had built together. It was as though an invisible thread stretched between them, taut with shared hopes and fears. "I understand," she replied, her voice firm yet tender. "But redefining our relationship and sharing our journey isn't about stepping away from each other. It's about inviting each other and those around us to witness who we truly are." The softening in Ethan's expression encouraged her, and she took a step forward. "Imagine the possibilities. By choosing to express our individual truths, we empower not just ourselves, but everyone who feels shackled by expectations. We set an example." In that moment, Maya grasped the deeper ripple of her intent. It was about authenticity that rang true within her soul. As she absorbed their surroundings, the faces of family and friends, some wary and some intrigued, a powerful realization began to settle in her mind. She had always thought of herself as the nurturer, the supporter of others' dreams. But the courage
she was summoning revealed that her own vision held weight, a potency that could challenge the status quo. "Let's not just tell our story, let's show it," she proposed, emboldened by her resolve. "We can create something monumental together. I'm not just your bride, I am an artist, and so are you, a partner in every sense. Let's find ways to incorporate our passions into this day, to illustrate the love and growth we've cultivated." Ethan's brow furrowed in thought. "And if that causes backlash, if this isn't received well?" Doubts flickered like shadows across his eyes, revealing his protective instincts. Maya's pulse quickened. The risks involved were daunting, and she felt the burden of expectations heavy on her heart again. "It's frightening," she admitted, her voice low. "But isn't progress often born from discomfort? I'd rather embrace the challenge than retreat. I want to show our friends and families that love can manifest in vibrant, unpredictable ways." As they spoke, the crowd continued to sway around them, an almost tangible representation of their intertwined thoughts. Surprisingly, a small smile crept onto Angela's face, signaling a begrudging acceptance, as if she could now see the glimmer of Maya's vision. But even with a flicker of support, new uncertainties surged within Maya. Could she remain steadfast against potential backlash? What if her dreams were met with skepticism? Fear threatened to appear, but Maya snuffed it out with determination. Internal debate ignited a hunger to forge ahead, no longer dimming her ambitions for anyone's benefit. With that resolve ignited, a plan began to form within her mind. She envisioned a dual narrative woven through their celebration, a ceremony that highlighted not just the union of two souls, but the individual artistry within them both. However, as thoughts swelled in vibrant possibilities, doubt awakened again, insidiously weaving its way back into her consciousness. Would Ethan embrace this level of change, or would he slip backward into old understandings that could stifle her growth? As Maya leaned towards him, questions danced playfully in her heart. She felt that the true essence of this moment lay not merely in the promise of their union, but rather in the unfolding journey that lay ahead. What risks, realizations, and creative explorations awaited them in the future? The atmosphere buzzed with unresolved tension, and she began to set her ideas into motion. Standing tall, the weight of her newfound identity filled her with purpose. Yet, above her determination lurked the ominous question: how would they engage with the world that awaited them, ready to challenge the limits of acceptance? Maya took a breath, steeling herself as the first steps toward transformation beckoned. Would she and Ethan emerge as the champions of their own stories, or would they falter in the face of criticism? She felt the undeniable pull of the journey ahead, and as she stepped deeper into the unknown, the stakes seemed higher than ever. Would love and their combined courage triumph against the pressures weighing them down? Maya's heart raced as she stepped away from Ethan, feeling a weightless freedom tantalizing her spirit. She knew they were on the verge of something extraordinary, but the unpredictability loomed over her mind like a dark cloud. With a newfound sense of purpose, she pushed her uncertainty aside and turned her focus toward the crowd, where familiar faces watched with a mix of anticipation and trepidation. Among the gathering, she spotted Angela, their friend who seemed to float at the intersection of both support and skepticism. Maya felt a compelling urge to anchor her vision more clearly, to transform her artistic ideas into tangible plans. As if bolstered by the spirit of the moment, she took a deep breath, the air filling with potential. "Let's begin by organizing the ceremony like a canvas," she declared, her voice ringing with newfound authority. "Music, art, spoken word, every facet reveals a piece of us. We can create a multi-sensory experience that echoes our truth." The fervor in her voice fueled the intent behind her words, and she caught tiny sparks of approval flickering among her friends. Yet anxiety surged again. They weren't just sharing their love, they were exposing their souls. How would the older generation react? What if Ethan wavered, paralyzed by fear of judgment? Those questions swirled inside, doubling back on one another like a tempest. Maya followed up swiftly, trying to ground herself. "Ethan and I will lead the way. If those who love us can't embrace this, then we'll still find our truth together. This isn't just about art, it's a movement, a declaration that love can take unexpected forms." Ethan stepped forward, meticulous yet tentative. "What if we consult those in our lives who might feel threatened? Maybe hearing from them will prepare us for external reactions." The suggestion hung in the air, colored with implications that made Maya's stomach knot. Consultation sounded responsible, but it also felt like inviting uncertainty rather than diffusing it. Maya nodded, catching his eye. "Yes, but it can't come from a place of fear. We must remember our foundation. Our vision isn't meant to cater to others' comfort. If they're challenged, so be it. Change requires discomfort." In that moment, she recognized the growing assertiveness within herself. It was as if the voice of her artistic vision amplified her resolve, demanding respect not just from others but from herself as well. Amidst their planning, an unsettling thought struck her. Was she stepping beyond the boundaries of familiarity too quickly? Maya began to sketch out a plan, the outlines shifting like fluid art, a blend of tradition and radical expression. She envisioned a ceremony adorned with their favorite art pieces, their stories told through vibrant colors and sounds. With each stroke of inspiration, doubt flared shades of dark gray, whispering reminders of family history, traditions, and expectations. "Will our families embrace the changes, or will they feel judged by our boldness?" she pondered, feeling a shiver of apprehension crawl down her spine. The thought was unnerving. In an effort to quell her rising fears, she returned to her core belief that authenticity could inspire, pushing through the daunting walls society had built around them. Ethan touched her arm gently, a grounding presence amidst her spiraling thoughts. "We can be pioneers, showing love in its richest, most vibrant form, but honesty means facing the truth of our collective fears too, right?" "Yes," Maya exclaimed, her heart swelling with a blend of exhilaration and apprehension. "We must remember that by sharing our story, we invite others into a dialogue. Maybe they will see their own fears mirrored in us." Maya felt the boundaries of her understanding stretch. There lay a profound opportunity for upheaval, not just in their lives, but in the lives of those watching. Each risk they embraced could serve as a beacon for others who had quieted their dreams for the sake of tradition. "But Ethan," she added, her voice dropping to a tone of caution, Are we ready to face backlash, even from those we love? Determination flooded her soul, igniting her resolve as the crowd disintegrated into the background. They were at a crossroads, not just as partners, but as individuals poised for explosive growth. The anxiety teetering on the edge of her thoughts transformed into a fierce energy of commitment. Would each risk they take bond them further, or threaten to unravel their newfound identities? As the clock ticked away on their moment of truth, a wave of clarity washed over Maya, sharpening her focus. The pivotal moment was approaching rapidly, a moment that would define their trajectory, conjuring both brilliant possibilities and harrowing consequences. With each passing second, Maya felt the pull. Soon, they would need to confront not just their loved ones, but also the very fabric of their dreams. Was their dual narrative strong enough to alter perceptions, or would it be relegated to the shadows of expectation? As she stood poised, awaiting the next step forward, one thought anchored itself resolutely within her. The fight for authenticity had only just begun, and the real battle lay ahead. Maya's thoughts whirled, each pulse of her heart tethered to the urgency of her mission. Standing amidst her friends, she realized the enormity of what they were attempting. This ceremony was not merely an event, it was her identity unfurling before the world, a canvas yearning for paint, for expression. But the apprehension tethering her left her feeling almost dizzy. As she glanced at Ethan, she noted the same mixture of fear and excitement mirrored on his face. What began as a fuel for creativity now felt like a chasm they were preparing to leap. Could they land safely? Would they be able to uphold their vision against the backlash? "Remember, Maya," she whispered to herself, the mantra forming in her mind. "This is about authenticity, not acceptance." Determination cut through her self-doubt, sharpening her focus as she outlined the next steps in her mind. If they were to confront their fear, they needed clarity on their vision. That vision had to be rippled with their authenticity, compelling enough for others to see the beauty in their truth. As she shared her ideas with Angela, Maya watched her friend's eyes light up with enthusiasm. What if we integrate a segment where the audience can share their perspectives? A moment for everyone's voices. Angela posed, the suggestion stirring something within Maya. "Yes, yes, that could be it!" she exclaimed, a spark igniting her imagination. A space for conversation allows us to embrace the fear. It could transform judgment into understanding. To her surprise, the thrill coursing through her veins soothed some of her anxiety, replacing it with exhilaration. Angela's energy was infectious, and as they collaborated on the details, Maya's doubts began to fade like the remnants of a storm. Yet there remained an undercurrent of unease. How could they ensure the audience would accept their unvarnished truth? To forge a connection with their loved ones meant respecting the very traditions that were now entwined with their journey. Maya needed to consider every possible angle, every reaction. "Do you think we should practice our presentation beforehand?" Angela suggested, her brow furrowing as if trying to calculate the ramifications of any missteps. Maya hesitated, the suggestion ringing alarms in her mind. Practice might mean we lose the rawness of our experience, our emotional spontaneity. I want it to be fluid, real. But maybe I should reflect more on my speech. I need to articulate our vision clearly. The words sounded rational, yet a twinge of fear whispered that overthinking could dull the very essence she sought to convey. Now was not the time to retract. Instead, she embraced the nervous energy, converting it into robust resolve as she pulled Ethan closer to negotiate their next steps. "We need to actually lay out how we'll blend traditional elements with our vision. Let's respect our histories while redefining them, a soft bridge rather than a hard break." Ethan contemplated this, absorbing her words. "But how do we ensure our message remains loose enough to be authentic?" he asked, uncertainty creeping into his tone. "By not being afraid to reveal our vulnerability, inviting them to walk with us, to understand the journey of our truth," Maya declared, sensing her authority shaping itself with every sentence. She believed deeply in this, her confidence rising like a phoenix with every statement.
And yet, beneath that rising confidence lay a torrent of hidden thoughts circulating in her head. What if no one was willing to join them on this path? What if her friends grew tired of fighting against societal boundaries? Those questions burrowed into her consciousness, prodding her vulnerability, making her legs tremble with unsteady anticipation. Why do I worry about acceptance more than authenticity? She questioned silently, standing before Angela and Ethan. Why do their thoughts hold such weight? But each self-doubt brought further clarity. The answers tethered her to her convictions, wrenching her back from the edge of despair. She could not allow the fear of rejection to pull her away from what she believed was right. As the sun dipped low, signaling the approaching date for the unveiling of their new truth, Maya resolved herself to confront not just the audience, but her deepest anxieties. What emerged next was like an electric current that connected her soul to the essence of her intention. There would be critics, there would be awkwardness, but perhaps it was precisely through those moments of discomfort that they could cultivate the enlightening dialogue she yearned for. As she stood in that creative fervor, her heart surged with a final question hanging in the air like an unanswered prayer. Were they indeed strong enough to break the status quo, or would they fall victim to the fears they sought to eradicate? The gusts of uncertainty seemed to demand an answer that demanded to be unearthed in the chaos of their truth. The journey ahead would not come without sacrifice, but that sacrifice was essential for authenticity's birth. Suddenly, she knew what she needed to do. The canvas awaited her first stroke. She just needed to gather her courage. Would her freshly ignited resolve hold firm against adversity, or would they become just another story hushed by the winds of tradition? Uncertainty lingered tantalizingly close as she prepared to unveil the depths of their vision, a vision that would either metamorphose them or unravel their very souls. Maya's mind raced as she stepped outside, the cool air hitting her face, grounding her in the moment. The enormity of their upcoming presentation had gripped her tightly, yet it was here, in this twilight stillness, that she felt the stirrings of empowerment. Clarity crept back in as she inhaled deeply, envisioning the spark she wanted to ignite in others. She meandered through the paths of the park, grateful for the solitude, where her thoughts could take shape unchained by doubt. If I want to speak my truth, I must embrace the power of vulnerability, she murmured, the phrase resonating in her core. There was beauty in shedding the protective layers she had built over time, revealing raw emotions for the sake of authenticity. In that moment, Maya made a decision. She would share her own story first. It was a risk, but perhaps vulnerability would invite others to open up, creating a ripple effect. They needed a touch of humanity, and she was ready to unleash it. As night settled in, she envisioned herself on the stage, pouring out her heart. The idea felt both exhilarating and terrifying, forcing her to grapple with the risks of exposure. What if they judge me? What if I'm just a whisper in the chaos? Those questions churned, but she recognized their futility. It was time to silence that internal critic for good. Determined, she returned home and grabbed her journal, a faithful companion through her journey of self-discovery. Flipping to a fresh page, she began crafting her narrative, details flooding back like an overwhelming wave. She remembered the moments of indecision, the grappling with identity, the clash of expectations surrounding her. It was all there, a tapestry of struggles and revelations, each thread an integral part of her fabric. Outside influences loomed large, and Maya had often cloaked her dreams with self-doubt, fearing that societal norms would crush her hopes. Yet, here she was, pen in hand, ready to etch out anew the path she should have always walked. What if my story could resonate? She mused as the ink flowed freely. Hours slipped by as her narrative unfolded. With every word, she unearthed hidden capabilities she had suppressed, strengths rising like the sun dispersing the darkness. There it was, the drive to confront, not just her fears, but the expectations of every gaze that had ever scrutinized her choices. Reaching the end of her story, Maya paused, scanning the pages filled with emotion. It was time for action, but a small pang of hesitation clung to her. Could she truly bear their judgment? Could she stand strong if they scorned her honesty? The comfort of staying silent tugged at her, tempting her to retreat. But she had made a pact with herself, a commitment to share, to embrace who she was. As vibrant thoughts clashed with her anxiety, the ultimate test of her resolve brewed on the horizon. She decided then, she would not just speak her truth, she would embody it. With revitalized determination, she envisioned not only the presentation, but how it could transform her, how her authenticity would act as a beacon for others silently navigating their unfulfilled dreams. This journey was not only about the message, it was a journey to discover her fullest self. Just as she was ready to close the journal, a sudden thought flickered uninvited into her mind. What if there were repercussions? What consequences awaited her if they failed to understand? Her fingers froze about the ink, sweat forming on her brow. All at once, the weight of her convictions bore down on her. Maya closed her eyes, envisioning the potential pathways their journey could take. As her heart thundered, she gripped her pen tight, poised to write her future with her own ink. Looking ahead, she knew the moment of truth was fast approaching. Could she stand firm against the tides of dissent? Or would she succumb to those unyielding thoughts, crashing under their weight? The answer lay beyond the horizon, and she needed to prepare for it. Tomorrow was a new battle, one she had to fight not only with her voice, but with the strength of her spirit. As dawn broke, its soft illumination spilled into Maya's room, stirring her from a restless sleep. The feelings jostled within her like a storm, excitement, fear, resolve, coalescing into a singular purpose. She shifted uneasily under the blankets, the weight of her decision anchoring her deeper into the mattress. The morning ritual felt stilted. Brushing her teeth, she caught sight of her reflection in the mirror. The face that stared back
radiated uncertainty, wrapped in determination. Would this be the day she finally stepped into the light, moving past the shadows of doubt that had loomed for so long? Today would test whether she would rise as the woman she desired to be or cower beneath the expectations of others. With a sudden momentum, Maya pulled herself upright. She slipped into a pair of comfortable shoes and laced them tightly. It struck her then that her feet would carry her to a stage and not just the ground beneath her. This would be more than a presentation. It was a firm step towards claiming her narrative, a definitive act against the whispers of self-doubt that had haunted her. In the kitchen, the aroma of brewing coffee filled the air, offering a semblance of reassurance. She poured a steaming cup, allowing its warmth to seep through her fingers. As she took a sip, clarity crystallized in her mind. She needed to embody the essence of the authenticity she aspired to express. Perfection was unattainable, but honesty, that she could deliver with fervor. Maya planted herself at the table with her journal before her, determined to map the key messages she desired to convey. Each concise bullet point became a potential beacon, guiding her and, hopefully, those who would hear her. As she began scribbling phrases, her heart raced with each stroke of the pen. It was liberating, such raw potential buried within her thoughts, yearning to spill forth. But there it was again, the creeping doubt. What if her words fell flat? What if the faces she saw in the audience reflected nothing but indifference? She fought against those fears, pushing them aside like autumn leaves, dead and brittle beneath her determination. She would not let them poison her vision. With her outline complete, she spent the morning rehearsing her story, each repetition fortifying the core of her message.
It became a mantra of sorts, resonating through her as she practiced standing tall, lifting her chin as she spoke. Moments that had once felt insurmountable now became manageable fragments, within her grasp, ready to be woven into her narrative. Outside, the city buzzed with energy, the sounds of life melding with her thoughts. Maya's heart swelled at the thought of the potential impact she could have. Every trembling voice silenced by fear deserved a chance to rise, and she would be one of the first to break ground. The clock ticked ominously, reminding her that time was slipping away. It was as if fate had orchestrated this very moment, placing her on the precipice of change. She caught her breath, her mind aligning with her heart. She would stand boldly, not just as a speaker, but as a vessel for what lay hidden within. In a last-minute surge of preparation, she grabbed her phone to send a text to her closest friend, someone who had believed in her when she struggled to believe in herself. "I'm about to do it," she typed, every letter.
"Whatever happens, I'm choosing authenticity today." Before she could hesitate, she hit send. As the reply buzzed back almost instantly, a simple, unwavering, "You got this," she felt a surge of empowerment wash over her. The door loomed before her, a barrier separating her from everything she feared yet yearned to encounter. With a deep breath, Maya stepped forward, ready to confront whatever awaited her on the other side. But just as she grasped the handle, a chilling thought struck her. Had she truly transformed enough to face the judgment of an audience? Would her vulnerability lead to connection or alienation? A determined resolution formed in her mind, the final question lingering like a whisper in her heart. Could she walk that tightrope of vulnerability and strength, unveiling her truth without faltering? The moment awaited, the answer hung in the air, and within a heartbeat she pushed open the door into the unknown. Maya stood at the podium, every heartbeat echoing in the silence of the room. She surveyed the faces before her, a blend of friends, family, and acquaintances, each carrying expectations and opinions tangled within their gaze. Today was not just a presentation. This was a pivotal moment where she would bridge the chasm between her past and her future. The spotlight illuminated her, bathing her in clarity and warmth, but the shadows of doubt still whispered in the recesses of her mind. Ignoring them, she took a deep breath, allowing the air to fill her with resolve. This was her time to reclaim her narrative, to celebrate her identity, not just as Maya the maid, but as Maya the artist, the dreamer, the woman who dared to stand taller than her fears. "Maya," she began, and her voice was steady, resolute. "Today, I stand here not just to marry Ethan. I stand here to declare my truth, which has often felt too bold for the world. I dream of colors, of ideas and stories that deserve to be shared." With each word, she felt the grip of self-doubt lessen, replaced by an electric energy that surged through her veins. She recounted her journey, the years spent laboring under societal expectations, the dreams stifled by fear, and the transformative moment that ignited her creativity. She laid bare the rawness of her experience, a tapestry woven from vulnerability and tenacity. The audience listened, riveted, not just by her story, but the strength of her conviction. She could see nods of understanding, the way some faces softened as they connected with her. She was no longer just Maya. She was a voice of authenticity, igniting a fire in a room that had seen too little of it. Amidst this revelation, she felt Ethan's presence solidify behind her. Seeing him, her heart swelled with love and gratitude. This moment wasn't solely hers. It was theirs together, a manifestation of their commitment to each other and to their individual dreams. As she wove in the importance of their shared journey, the foundation they built upon trust, she noticed something remarkable. The audience began to shift. Walls of skepticism began to crumble, replaced by admiration and curiosity. Maya had navigated the terrain of fear to present an invitation, an opportunity to explore identities beyond societal constraints. "And I choose not to hide who I am anymore," she finished, her voice rising with conviction. "I refuse to let the judgments of others dictate the trajectory of my life. Together, Ethan and I will build a life full of honesty, creativity, and the courage to embrace whatever comes our way." In that moment, she knew she had accomplished exactly what she set out to do. She had unveiled not just her art, but her heart. She glanced at her notes, only briefly. The essence of her message had transcended anything she had prepared. The authenticity, the fight against conformity, had taken root in the room, inspiring others to examine their own constraints. When the applause erupted, an exhilarating rush surged through her. It was validation, evidence of her transformation. No longer just a maid in a beautiful dress, she had emerged as a force of change, a vibrant spirit willing to confront conventionality. Ethan stepped forward, taking her hand, grounding them in a moment that encapsulated their essence, two souls intertwined in honesty. The love radiating between them was palpable, a testament to their joint commitment. He smiled at her, and in that shared glance, she knew they were ready to tackle the world together. As the ceremony progressed, Maya felt a profound shift within herself. Confidence replaced anxiety. The insecurities that had confined her for too long dissipated like mist under the morning sun. The moment felt expansive, full of infinite possibilities waiting to be explored. Later, as she and Ethan exchanged personal vows that embodied their unique commitment to each other, she felt the weight of the narrative shift between them. They were no longer shackled by the expectations of what their love should look like. They had laid the foundation of their relationship on trust and authenticity. Maya stepped into the next chapter of her life invigorated and ready, dedicated to embracing both her artistry and her partnership with Ethan. It wasn't merely about facing the world, it was about thriving within it, armed with the strength of her truth. As they sealed their vows with a kiss, she felt the thunderous applause around her, echoing a promise that resonated deeply. Their love would reshape them both, inspiring others to embrace the boldness of their dreams, forever inviting a dialogue that extended far beyond this moment. Today, she had conquered her fears and emerged victorious. Maya was not just a bride, she was an artist, an advocate, and a woman who had learned to stand proudly in her truth. The journey ahead shimmered with possibility, and she was ready to create a masterpiece of her life, one brushstroke at a time. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like.
Now, to feed the algorithm. Seriously, it makes a difference. Comment with your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support and join a movement of personal overcoming stories. Don't wait even one more second to share.